Okay, we are on the air. Welcome, everybody.
I
This
think
is
it was,
Jennifer Neritz. Say again?
hi, Michaela Kennedy. I said that you're looking beautiful today, Jennifer. We always
Well,
worry
thank you,
before we
Michaela.
start and go, oh my God, what do we look like, you know?
Yes,
My
and
father
that's
used to call me the wild woman from the West when my hair was all over the place.
yes, yes. That was one of the reasons why I colored my hair for so long, is because it calmed my hair down. Granted, it's naturally straight, but it has these little weird behavior things that if I color it, they go away. Which, anyway.
Yeah,
And that was one of the
exactly.
journeys that I've ceased with this year, is this is au naturel now. We're not, anyway. I'm glad everybody was able to join us today.
Yes, let's start again. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Academy of Holistic Healing. Uh, Jennifer Neritz and Michaela Kennedy for another fun hour.
Absolutely.
It better be a
Absolutely.
fun hour, otherwise it'll be a very painful hour.
Yeah. Well,
Breakthrough hour. How's that? Breakthrough hour.
yeah, in so many different ways. And I love our conversations because even getting ready for this webinar, some of the things that we talked about, and even just sitting here right before we went live, about how I was sitting here going, oh God, my hair. And that got us talking about how we feel, especially as women, how we feel we must look a certain way in order to be taken seriously, or in order to have self-confidence, or in order to be accepted, or whatever. And it's fascinating how much of that is perceived in reality and how much of it is our own limiting belief that if we don't look this certain way, we won't be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
How many women do you know who just simply show up and have this incredible energy, have this incredible attraction to everybody because they've got it all together here? You don't even notice what they look like. You don't even notice what they're wearing. It's just an energy that you want to be around, that you want to learn from. Anyway.
Absolutely. No, we need to. It's true. We need to listen to what to our inner soul. We need to listen to what really is, and be careful of what gauge we use to judge ourselves by. I'll give you an example. There's I'm on somebody's list who does a lot of publicity. He's a publicity agent. And he gave a list of the top 7 tips of preparing yourself for publicity campaigns. And I was really shocked to see that half of the things on his list were, he said, get your hair done, get a makeover, and whiten your teeth. And I had a British friend
Wow.
say that, yeah, I was amazed. There are many men I know that are old geezers that look like they're about to fall dead, and I'm like this listening to what they have to say because what they say is so dynamic, and
Right?
I'm not even noticing what they look like.
Yes.
A friend of mine in London laughed at the Americans and said, and by the way, it was an American publicity agent that was dishing this stuff out.
Uh-huh.
Maybe the guy's a little bit too close to the fashion world. I don't know. But my friend in London, she laughed when she said, "Oh, you Americans, you're so like obsessed with how your teeth look."
Uh-huh.
And it's true. Okay, my teeth aren't the greatest. They aren't exactly, white as they were when I was 10.
Yeah,
But
mine either.
no. but I with a natural look, nothing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And it's funny because it all goes back to it. And especially coming from my perspective of the Academy of Holistic Healing, where going back to nature, going back to our connection with self, it's not about how white are your teeth. It's not about what color your hair is. It's not about whether it's gray, whether you've got wrinkles or anything else. It's about who you are at your center, at your core. Are you aligned? Are you speaking your truth? How do you get past all of the things that are holding you from attaining the life that you want to live, really thriving, not just surviving? You know, it doesn't matter how white your teeth are or how smooth your skin is if you're dying on the inside. That stuff really doesn't matter. Um,
You know what? I'm going to say I love everything that you're saying, Jennifer, but I just realized that when we get together, we get so excited about what we're talking about that we forget to introduce ourselves, and we just let's just do a little station identification here.
okay. Thank you. You
Go
joined
ahead.
Jennifer
Who are you,
Nairn
Jennifer? What
with
is the
the
Academy of Holistic
Academy of
Healing?
Holistic Healing. Sharing tips and tricks on ways to bring life full so that we're no longer just surviving, but we can thrive from a natural standpoint, mind, body, and spirit.
Now
That is a
tell
center
me.
point of, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. It's a center point of. I got excited again.
Of the teachings of the Academy of Holistic Healing. And it is what has become my mission in life in teaching people how they can integrate their lives on all levels, naturally and holistically, and really truly become a powerhouse within their own life.
Now, this is the very beginning stages of this, isn't it?
Of the
Right
Academy?
now, we're starting to mold. It's starting to. You're going to hear a lot of farming allusions today. I'm loaded with them. I live in a farming country here. Um, and you are also eventually down the road. I don't know how many weeks or months you are away from it, but you'll be offering a certification too, won't you?
Yes, and that is actually probably months down the road because give you a little insight in back behind the screen here. There's some of the legal stuff, the technical stuff that takes a while to jump through the proper hoops and trademarking and all that other kind of stuff. Yes, it
So
is.
maybe people that join us early, maybe you'll be able to be giving them some insider, maybe some founders credits.
Absolutely. That's a really great idea. That is a really great idea. And the thing that I am really enjoying and that I'm looking for expanding on is how much knowledge and wisdom there is outside with our listeners and with each of us that helps the Academy grow even more. Because that is what makes that is going to make the Academy so incredible and so strong, is that it's drawing on the wisdom of more than just myself. And because we've each walked a different path and we've learned different things that all work together for the community whole. And that's what I'm really excited about. So the founders gifting, so to speak, is a brilliant idea. What that looks like, I don't know yet.
Well, no, we don't. This is all we're all just piecing it together, and
Yes.
as you said, it's a fledgling operation right now, but it's going to grow and it's going to be strong. It's
Yes.
already strong in its roots.
Yes.
One thing that made me think of it is perhaps in the beginning, the way we start every week, we can also ask our audience, you listeners out there, hey there, if you have any questions that or issues that you'd like us to address or that
Yes.
you would like to see, maybe, or some desires, things that you would like to be certified with, but you don't know how. Maybe you're looking for resources, or maybe you're looking to clear some blocks. Share them with us. Share your comments. Share questions, anything that you have, so we can better serve you.
Yes. And actually, that's a brilliant idea. I will go ahead and create a little video to put up on my Google Plus page requesting the same thing. If people don't have the full hour to listen and get through there, just put in little snippets of information for people. Because I would love, we both would love to get feedback on this and how best can we serve the community that's out there.
I'm sure we can get some great outtakes from our hangouts here too.
Oh, I'm sure. So that's me in a nutshell. Michaela, what's your story? What brings you here?
Well, as you can see down below my website, I actually have a number of websites that I do. I'm a web content creator. I like to help people start their own business, which led me to startingmyownbusiness.org.
Excellent.
I share, there are a lot of people who start their businesses, they just don't know where to begin. They're frustrated, they've lost their job, and I've lost my job a number of times. I'm a laid off public high school teacher. Everyone thinks that once you get a job with the public school system that you're set for life. No, it's not true. The government doesn't have the money. A lot of people are very frustrated. They're constantly being told that they're overqualified. Well, if somebody tells you you're overqualified for a job and you don't know what to do, believe them. Right. Believe them and say, by golly, I have something really good to offer people. So I help people to find what it is that is within them that they can offer, something that they have a passion about, so they can run with it. And that involves technology, it involves action plans, marketing, you name it. There's a ton of stuff out there, and it helps to have a guiding light to help you find those things.
Absolutely, which segues into something else that we were talking about before, about the difference between knowing how to do something, being told how to do something, and actually doing it yourself. And which ties into the action piece, how we get caught up into thinking we know so much, which we do. It's not a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of taking action and practical experience to where it moves from your head into your heart. It's like, I know how to do that. Because we were laughing earlier about the invitation that for the hangout, so a little technical side note for everybody, when you're running a hangout, you actually have to invite your co-host. Not let them know when the event is, not send them the URL for the main page. You actually have to invite them once you start the hangout.
And how many times have we been doing that? We forget every time.
I know. And now it's like, oh, the light went on. I get it now. Yay! But that's the
sometimes
difference.
In a simple task list can make all the difference. We can't keep it all up here in our heads.
Thinking it through, but an actual, I have walked these steps. And that, I swear, is one of the things that differentiates you and I from so many other people. And this is not a comparison game. It's a mindset. It's an awareness thing. You and I are walking the walk. It's not just talk. Yes. It's not thinking about it. It's like every single day we are in there running into blocks, running into walls, running into technology, running into our own shit, and we're working it through.
Which is a great segue, introduction, as it were, into today's second limiting belief. What is it, Jennifer?
Absolutely. I'm not smart enough. And when I first read that, I thought, that's stupid. I'm not smart enough. And then the fact that that's how I reacted to it made me go, oh, wait a minute. There might be something here. I'm not smart enough. So let's sit with that. What does that really mean? I'm not, fill in the blank, enough. Wow. It's a huge lack mentality. It's a huge victim mentality.
And sometimes we bury that one so deep we're not even aware of it.
Yep. Which is why when I reacted... Go ahead.
How many people have you told that you are writing a book, or that you are, and you're not really writing the book, but you just tell people that, or maybe you really are writing it, and you have it done and you're ready to move forward with it, and then other people say, oh yeah, I'm going to write a book someday too. And like intellectually it's the desire, but turning it into a manifested action is where the disconnect is.
Yes.
And that I'm not smart enough falls into that, because what happens as soon as we start running into the challenges of the technology, or not understanding the steps correctly, maybe we've done 1, 4, and 5, but we forgot 2 and 3. But we don't know that we forgot it. We don't know, and it paralyzes us. And as you said earlier, just before we get on, it's not just it's about it's a big thing to think you understand it intellectually, and to actually do it and go through the motions of it.
Yes. And when you start running into blocks, that's when you're going to notice these mindsets, these beliefs, these voices in your head that say, I'm just not smart enough to get this, or I'm just not technically minded, or I must be doing something wrong. Well, sometimes you are doing something wrong. Sometimes I'm doing something wrong. Now, I'm going to give you an example because this is one that I'm still battling with, interestingly enough. Setting up the membership site. I have spent months trying to get this thing organized, get it set up, get it running right, getting all of the technical back-end stuff to flow properly so that when people come in, they get the right messages, so that they get their login information, so that they get the information that they want to see. And I kept running into block after block after block after block. And I find it's like, okay, what am I doing wrong? I mean, I'm smart. I'm pretty quick with technical stuff. What am I doing wrong? What did I miss? And even with all of the work that I've done, even with all of the mindset shifts that I've made, my go-to is still, I made a mistake. Where did I make a mistake? Where am I falling short? What is it that I don't know? Come to find out there's a problem with the program. But it took me months.
Yes, and we think it's us.
Yes.
How many times have you bought a new appliance that has some like high-tech thing element to it, and you can't make it run, only to find out it's defective? But
Yes.
you rip your hair out for a week trying to figure it out.
What's wrong with me?
Or thinking we're too stupid to figure it out. Yeah.
Yes. And
years ago, I went to a Bob Proctor seminar, and Bob Proctor is a famous motivational speaker. He did a whole course, very interesting classic book. And I remember talking to him about, what happens when you don't know and you don't think. He said somewhere along the line, maybe you just went too far. So what you do is you go back, you step back a step, and you say, well, do I understand this? And you go, well, maybe you're still stuck. Go back. Sometimes we're so afraid to just start all over again and do the basic steps. Conversely, some of us also get stuck on the basics and keep spinning our wheels with it, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But it's good to have clarity, to go back, and instead of beating ourselves up and saying, oh, I'm too stupid to get that, practice. Just practice.
Yes. And as we've been talking, I've been tapping because this is such an integral one to the lack mentality. It's really fascinating because even with all of the work that I've done around it, there's still something down deep in there about just not quite being enough. And that's why the I'm not smart enough thing really triggered me when I first read it. I mean, I was angry and dismissive. And that is such a clue for me that I've hit something pretty big. Once I get out of whatever the emotion is, looking at, oh, okay, so there must actually be something there for me. So where in my life has that thought, I'm not enough, limited me? Where has that held me back? And I was noticing it this weekend, and I have boxes and boxes of notes, of learnings, of classes, of things that I want to share with people. And why hasn't that one been released yet? Well, I don't know. Why hasn't that one been released yet? Well, I might offend someone with that one. Well, why hasn't that one been released yet? Well, because, my belief system might be different than someone else's. Well, that's a guarantee.
We worry so much about what others think. Where did that come from? I know where it came from. It came from my society and my parents, for sure. They used to always, they used to always tell me of things like that.
Excuse me.
Because of what other people might think of me.
Yeah. And if it goes back to the safety and security and getting thrown out of our tribe thing. If we alienate ourselves, we, way back when, would have gotten thrown out of the tribe, which meant death. So we had to fit in. We had to conform. We had to just do what we needed to do to survive. We have so much free time now compared to back when, our brains first started creating, that this craziness continues to go, and we don't have enough forced activity to keep it busy. But if we don't conform, in our head, the thought is, if we don't conform, we're going to get thrown out of the tribe. And it is truly a fight or flight survival instinct that until you start to become aware of it, it takes over your life and runs you on automatic until you're able to go, oh, no, wait a minute. That's probably not the way that I want to respond here. So, let's take a second. Let's take a stop. Let's breathe. Okay, is that really how I feel? Or is it just the way that I've been programmed to react and respond in a situation? And is it still serving me? Which goes back to my immediate response to I'm not smart enough was anger and frustration. Well, don't want to rock the boat, because for as long as I can remember, that's been, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a kid. Keep your mouth closed. Nobody wants to hear from you. I mean, because some of the things that I knew as a little kid challenged the adults in my life. And so,
me too. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah. And there is a whole generation of us, and I don't say generation by age. I say generation by mindset, by connection, by belief, by open access somewhere. That when we were kids, we knew things that made the adults very, very uncomfortable because they knew we were right and they could not admit it, would not admit it, didn't want to feed it, whatever. And in that created a double layer to that, don't rock the boat.
And once we realized that it was about them and not about us, it makes all the difference.
It's for me, it started to make the difference. It didn't make all the difference. This is where the tapping for me came in, because on an energetic, physical level, it was, I feel it in the pit of my stomach. I feel it in my throat. When I start to speak about something that I'm really passionate about, and that it's in your cellular structure, and that's where the tapping releases it. And then it becomes, it has the ability to actually make it all the way out with all of the truth and the belief that we have in it. Because even though manifestation comes down, the belief system goes up so that they work together into the 5th chakra. So all of the wounds in our 1st, 2nd, 3rd chakra, which is our survival, our safety, our passion, our personal voice, our strength, our power, our personal power. How do we carry our power? Where is it safe to carry our power? Where have we been told to back off? That has to come up and out in order for us to speak our truth, to have it manifested. Otherwise, we're speaking our fears, which is the I'm not enough. That victim mentality, that lack mentality that comes out in everything we say and do, and we're not even aware of it. So
now, if I can just stop you for a minute,
you
Jennifer,
got me going on this one.
I just want to ask you if this is resonating with our audience. We're jumping. We love this, and we've been doing it for so long, and we do jump into advanced stuff. And maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about what tapping is, and also the word chakra might be new for some people as well. Many Westerners I know, I've met many of my friends have never heard that word before here in America. And if you practice yoga, you probably know what chakras are. But I'll take the chakras, and then you can explain the tapping.
Perfect.
But for people who, in the yogic tradition in India, they talk about the wheels of life, different energy centers within the body. Now, if you don't understand that, it's good to just know what I'll do for my clients that don't understand, understand, it's actually a basic concept, but who have never heard of chakras before. You can just talk about the different centers, your abdomen, your stomach, your solar plexus, your heart, your throat. different people hold stress in different areas, and the chakra system is a kind of language that explains people how to release that stress. If you've never heard of it before, you can just use that little technique as say, okay, breathe and relax myself, center myself into my stomach, and then feel where I get tight when I get nervous. You know, do I get a headache? Do I get a neck ache? Does my chest tighten up, or do I get a stomach ache? Those little things, because nobody needs to immediately know how to use what chakras are in order to understand where you're holding the body image. That will all be part of the academy.
Yes.
If chakras are something you want to know more about, when you join us as a member, you can learn more about it, as well as the tapping. Now, we don't obviously want to get into a tapping lesson here. No, just kidding. not but what exactly is tapping, Jennifer, and how do you present it? How are you going to present it in the academy?
Well, actually, that's a kind of a two-part question. Tapping in and of itself, it's short for meridian tapping, which for me got its basis from emotional freedom technique, or EFT. And the premise behind it all...
That's a branded name, isn't it?
It is a branded name. And because I don't follow exactly the specific rigid parameters of emotional freedom technique, I simply call it meridian tapping, because over the last 5 years I have used it in a variety of situations, and I've learned from many different teachers, trying to get a feel for what truly works with what I know.
Okay, Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I'm going to stop you again because as a language teacher, I'm a little sensitive to stuff. And again, we get excited and we start using jargon. What is a meridian?
Thank you. They are energy. I love it. I absolutely love it, because to me, I've been speaking this language for 30 years. And so thank you.
Well, I've been a language teacher for many years, and that's the only reason why I stop, and things like that are little red flags for me. I used to live in Tokyo, and I tried to study acupuncture, but I was afraid to hurt people by sticking them with needles. Yeah. But I love getting the treatments, and every month I would get a couple of treatments, and it would help balance me. The meridians, you know what, here I go. I'm going to jump in and give my own explanation of what it is. It's basically the Chinese designated lines of how our electromagnetic body is connected. And I do remember, although I'm not an authority on it, you are, the tapping technique affects the electromagnetics of our body. And yes. Everything is energy, so everything does have an electromagnetic pulse to it.
Yes, absolutely. And the tapping uses the same energy lines as acupuncture does, and acupressure, which is what makes the meridian tapping so effective, because especially for those of us that are queasy around needles, it is simply applying staccato pressure on the outside of your body on various pressure points that directly correlate to those meridians or energy lines within our body. And the premise behind meridian tapping... Say again?
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you again. You know, this little lag is kind of funny, and I'll stop interrupting you. But since I wasn't aware of tapping before I met you, and I've started to use it on places that my acupuncturist frequently uses, and it's a big help.
Yeah, very cool. And that's Ah, that's where you are listening to your own inner guidance. You're taking the tools, you're applying it to other learning that you've had, and for you, it's working beautifully. And that is awesome. That is about returning us to our own inner sense of wisdom. And that is one of the main cores of the Academy of Holistic Healing, because we spend so much time thinking and listening and searching for information and is this the right way to do it out there, that we forget that we are our own best healer. So, fabulous. Yes, and by focusing our intention, thinking about a specific issue that causes discord within our body, which makes us feel uncomfortable, and really paying attention to where it is, and it could be a simple word as my throat's tight. You don't have to, and you're right, you don't have to use, well, that's my fifth chakra and it's upset because I haven't spoken my truth. No, my throat hurts. It feels tight when I think about this. Okay, this tightness in my throat. Wow, this tightness in my throat. This tightness in my throat.
I'm clearing the tightness in my throat.
Yes.
It's like my throat is soft. My throat is opening.
Yes, and we spend so much time in the positives in our headspace that we don't acknowledge the negatives. And that is where the strength of the meridian tapping comes in, is finally voicing how we feel. Not the pretty stuff, not the way that it's supposed to, but really what is inside our truth, and honoring how we feel. And at that point, after we voice it and tap on it, then we can put in, oh, I am so glad that this is released now. I feel so much better. My throat is so much looser. I can now speak my truth with ease. I can honor the fact that this is how I feel, and I'm choosing to speak more uplifting things now on, from now on. I'm open to seeing what it was that was holding me tight. But it's the voicing of how we really feel and an honoring of how we really feel that is so critical in the effectiveness of meridian tapping. And
yes, and it's also really forcing ourselves, or really or bringing our focus and bringing our awareness to these things, and the limiting beliefs that I am too. As we did last week, we did the I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too old. This week, I'm too smart. We've used them like a broken record. It's just a loop that we are not paying attention to.
yes.
But the more we pay attention to it, the easier it is to let it go, and we get the courage to actually push ourselves through. We push ourselves through a lot of technology things. I'll tell you, if we weren't willing, if we thought we weren't smart enough and we believed all that rhetoric, we wouldn't be here talking with you on a Hangout.
Absolutely. That's very true. And it is, if I may interject something here real quick, the pushing through, one of the most important steps for me in pushing through or in identifying and releasing whatever that block was simply acknowledging how I feel about it and how I feel about myself, because there are times in recent history where I had really dark thoughts about myself, but it was never okay to voice that, because especially when you're mentoring people, you need to be uplifting, you need to be helpful, you need to be very positive. Okay, that's great up here, but down in here and down lower in my gut, that isn't how I felt. And I had to voice it, because otherwise it starts coming out in behaviors and habits, in snarky little side comments, and it's not honoring.
And I'm laughing, Jennifer, because the reason why I'm laughing is because we all do it.
Yes.
And there's one practice that I've learned from the advanced Buddhism that I've studied, is that when we feel those dark moments and we understand those dark moments, instead of owning it for ourselves and beating ourselves up about it, we can rejoice with those dark moments and understand that it's part of the common human nature, that it allows us to break through and connect with others in other people's pain too.
Yes. It's
And
a
that's a point to rejoice in.
Absolutely. It's a bringing together of both halves.
Yes.
You
Yes,
know,
do you remember The Dark Crystal? Jim Henson's movie, The Dark
yes.
Crystal?
Yeah,
One of my
exactly.
favorites.
And it's the duality, the bringing into balance of the positives and the negatives, the dark, the light, the we are such amazing creatures that we aren't just one. You can't have just one. It's like you can't have one-sided coins. Because it's a multidimensional, there is another side. And that's the same way with us. We aren't always one way or the other.
Yes, and we don't have to buy into one or beat ourselves up because we're not doing the other.
Right.
It's all part of understanding our multifaceted self.
Yes. Yes. And it's a big part of understanding what all you bring to the table.
Mm.
And when you're looking at your business, and in your it just I say that as a separate thing, but it's all one and because that could be your job, it could be your family. It's what are you bringing to your life, and the good and the bad all play a part, and it's learning how to navigate and how to bring them into balance because they each have a role. They each have positives, they each have negatives. On more than one occasion, people have looked at me sideways when I've laughed during stressful situations. And that's simply because I'll have something else going on in my head, and I have a really warped sense of humor sometimes, and I will laugh about something that's going on in my head that isn't necessarily the right thing to be doing in
Mm.
that circumstance, but it worked for me. Anyway, it's about bringing everything into balance, about understanding that there's gifts in both. So, yes. And
Absolutely. So if we can just recap for a minute, we're talking about how to overcome our limiting beliefs.
mhm,
And today we're talking about the one that hits a lot of us, that keeps us from moving forward with projects, is I'm not smart enough. I don't know how to
yes,
do it.
yes,
Well, if I believed that at 5 years old, I never would have learned how to play the piano. If I believed that at 2 years old, I never would have learned a language. I've
correct.
had many friends tell me, they say, wow, I can't believe that you're bilingual, that I could never learn a language. Well, if we reinforce what we can't do and never make the effort to try,
hmm
well, also last week we talked about those little changing our habits. Once we recognize that that's what we're doing, and we can also recognize the electromagnetic blocks and tap them out, or meditate or breathe, whatever techniques we've learned this far, and use it as a stepping stone to greater awareness, and then make a little effort. I'll give you an example. I used to work out all the time. I used to love different sports. I was a windsurfer, swimmer. I did a lot of different things. I was always in shape. Well, in the last couple of years, I've been, well, I don't want to beat myself up, but I'm overweight and out of shape, and compared to what I was before. And instead of sitting around the way I have been all winter long through all of those snow drifts and cookie baking sessions, I now say I don't have to keep doing that. I don't need to keep gaining weight, and I don't need to keep sitting around. I can say, well, today is a new day, and today I don't need to go out there and do a sport hardcore for 2 hours. I can go out and I can do a walk for 15 minutes.
hmm
In fact, I didn't even know if I had that strength because I was just getting over a cold. So I went outdoors today. I used the 15 steps up and down my back deck to go up and down. I ended up doing 150 steps. I ended
Wow.
up working up. I broke a sweat, and I felt good, and I felt that it was enough. But it was a little triumph, and it was just a little habit that I'm tweaking. Now, if I just say yay and give myself choice in that, then I can continue doing it, and perhaps in a month or in a couple of weeks I will be doing more and more and more, because that's what it is. It's about recognizing those bad habits, recognizing those limiting self-beliefs, and doing something little, even if it is only 10 minutes or 2 minutes, that changes the energy of it, as it were.
Yep, absolutely. And it's those little changes every day. And in, I know that in 12-step programs they have this system as well. In Reiki, when I was going through my first training, one of the things that we had was there were the 5 pillars, and just for today, I will not be angry.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember that one. That's a good one.
It is, because there are days when all I can take is the day. Okay, just for today, I will not be, and it's not I will not be angry, I will not react with anger, because there's a big difference between the two to me. And I use that as a tool to start noticing, okay, I got really angry when, as an example, when my youngest son interrupted me. And I'll make a note of it. I will respond without anger, and I'll go back and go, okay, so why did I get angry about that? And I use those little things every day as ways of finding what's really making me tick. And it is those little things. Every day when I wake up, I make a list of the things that I want to accomplish for that day. Starting off with the most important. Generally, it's waking up. It's going to be a great day. After, seriously.
Yeah, no, you do it in the morning, and that's great. I do it the night before, so I wake up, and it's what I'm looking at when I wake up. But morning, and I do them in the mornings too, but if whichever works for you, night or morning.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the
good habit.
It is a habit, and it's one that you have to get in the habit of doing, because it's not a natural thing for most people to do.
It doesn't come naturally. Yes.
It doesn't.
We have to get out of our comfort zone in order to move forward. None of us in life can stay in our comfort zones and move forward. It's impossible. We need to take whatever that stress is, and stress can be a good thing too, because it creates a tension that helps to propel us forward. We don't have to constantly be running from it.
Correct. It's when it gets to be too much, and it's counterproductive at that point. Then, you've reached your threshold, the balance between positive and negative. Once it reaches that point where it's no longer pushing you forward but causing you to fall backwards, that's your break point.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And how is our audience doing? Do we have any questions or any feedback?
I've been watching, and I'm not seeing any questions come in yet.
Good, okay.
So
I just make sure that we're on the same page.
Yes.
That's good.
And what's funny is that there's a lot of times when I'll get questions afterwards and be able to answer.
Sometimes it takes some to let it sink in. Yeah.
Yes, because that's one of the really great things about our conversation style, that it allows us to cover an awful lot of ground with a central theme. We cover a lot of outside ground that allows people to have their own ahas and kind of sort things through for themselves and go, oh, well, wait a minute. When they said this is how I reacted and responded, and why is that? What could that actually be? I wonder, what's the next layer in there? And
that's good or bad, and that's positive or negative reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially a negative reaction, because then you stop, and when you ask yourself, why did I react negatively? That's a great question.
That's one of my favorite questions, and I actually had to teach my kids how to ask that again. It's like, ask why. Why? And it's not always outside. Most of the time it's inside. Well, why did I think that? Why do I think that? Why did I think I wasn't smart enough? School was a breeze for me. Anything that I really wanted, I could get. So why did I think I wasn't smart enough? And I think that is the politically correct one, because of the way, the resistance that I had when I was younger about, well, you're being a little smarty pants. So, okay, so being too smart is a bad thing. Okay, note to self. So, I'm not smart enough. I couldn't do that. I'm not smart enough. Well, it's kind of a passive aggressive thing because you're
May
smart.
have a story.
At least
I may have shared this with you before. Oh, I'm talking over you again. I'm so sorry, but you triggered
it's okay.
a memory for me. I used to teach foreign language. As many of you know, I lived in Japan for many years, and I learned Japanese, which is actually a much easier language than most people understand. Most people will say, "Oh gosh, it's so difficult," but they are only repeating what other people have said. So my students in class, once they got through the first few months and we changed that key, they'd start getting it. And I remember one day somebody raising their hand and saying, "I'm so sorry, Sensei. I'm not sure, but maybe you may have made a little mistake on the board. I don't know if that's correct." And she was so tentative, and she was almost scared to say it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up and I said, "By golly, you're right." And I changed it and I said, "Okay, from now on, anybody that points out a mistake that I've made on the board," and it's very easy to do when you're in front of a crowd, and it's very easy to make mistakes in your grammar and mistakes in anything that comes out of your mouth because you're thinking ahead, and sometimes you don't even realize you said the opposite of what you meant. But that's another story that we can get into later. But in this particular case, I said anybody who points out my mistake will get extra credit on their quiz the next time we have a quiz. And everybody, I was shocked at their reaction because there was silence, and everybody looked at each other and they were frowning, and they were and I said, "Well, what's the matter?" And they said, "Sensei, I can't, it's really weird that you said that because most of our teachers get angry when we point out mistakes on the board."
Uh-huh.
And I thought, wow, and when somebody makes a mistake and you don't clarify it and you copy that mistake and you use that mistake in the quiz and you get it wrong, who gets the points off? Not the teacher, the student.
Exactly.
I was just listening to NPR, the National Public Radio station here in the United States, and they were talking about a study they did between Asians and the Afro-Americans, blacks. By the way, blacks. I have a lot of black friends, so they say call us blacks. Yes. So between the black students and the Asian students, and why there was such a discrepancy, why the black students were having such a hard time with the mathematics, where the Asians were excelling. Now we always thought, oh, those Asians, they're incredible with engineering and everything else. So that during the study, it came to find out there was one significant difference, and it had nothing to do with ability or intelligence.
Huh.
The Afro-American students all studied alone, and they struggled through every question they had, and they were also shy to ask those same questions that they would have difficulty with in class. The Asian students, on the other hand, always studied in groups. They would challenge each other with more difficult problems than what they were told to study. And they also felt very comfortable asking each other about questions that they thought were too stupid to ask in class.
Wow.
So they found a lot of clarity within teamwork. And I'm not calling out the blacks, because I know that was when I look back on it, I go, whoa, that was my major problem in school, because I never joined a study group when I was in school. Mm-hmm. That was a big aha moment for me. Yeah. So realizing that there's really not that much of a difference between intelligence levels. It's how we choose to communicate, how we choose to tackle a problem, and to overcome it.
Absolutely. And
teamwork is great. Yes. I mean, Jennifer, how long have we wanted to talk about this stuff, but we hesitated to do it alone.
Exactly.
And now we've teamed up, and it's blossoming.
Yep. That's exactly right, and that is one of the things that I'm so excited about with the Academy. Is it's not just about me spilling what I know. It's about, this is what I know. What are you bringing to the table? How can we make this even better? How can we make this even bigger? How can we be even more balanced and healthier? And what's that piece that's missing in my training? And so, yes, absolutely. Yay.
Yes. I would like to, since I was mentioning that study, it just reminded me that I would like to throw out a special blessing or thought, condolences to the family of Maya Angelou.
Mm-hmm.
She was a famous American, Black American poet, writer, inspirational woman.
Mm-hmm.
She just died this week at 86. And when you stop and think of her era and all of the things that she had to overcome in terms of prejudices and things, that it makes our own issues look kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we all have things to overcome in society, get worse by doing it for ourselves. So rest in peace, Maya, and thank you for being a jewel and a beacon of light for so many, for the world.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up, because she was actually the one that I was thinking about when we first started, about how some women can walk in the room and everybody is drawn to them based on who they are at their core. That was exactly who I was thinking of. Yeah. So thank you for bringing us full circle, as this often happens. And I'm just very grateful for you.
Great. Well, I'm grateful for you too. Yes. Be your own best fan club, everybody. All my friends and viewers out there, please, if you can't stand up for yourself, who's going to stand up for you?
Yes. Yep.
We need to be strong. We need to stand up for ourselves.
Yes, I'm laughing because that has been, as not only as a Libra, but as someone who has had in essence, their spiritual lips sewn shut for so many years. Learning to be my own cheerleader has been one of my lessons this journey, and I can cheer other people on without any problem. Cheering myself on has been such a struggle, and it's finally gotten to the point where everything that I have in me, I can't keep it quiet anymore. Mm-hmm. And realizing that people may not appreciate, understand, get drawn to what I say, and I'm okay with it. And I know that my voice has been designed to help people. And I may have to go through 14 million before I find that one person that has been placed on this planet at the same time as me to hear what I have to say to make their life journey easier.
Hey, there are 7 billion of us.
Yay!
So, there is a chance that we can find our tribe, the people that are.
Yes, and that was an exaggeration. Yeah. And my point is, it
doesn't.
No,
but and we don't always have to be on. You know, we have these aha moments, and we propel ourselves forward, and then we do fall back. We fall back into old habits. I mean, old habits die hard, but it's about repetitively remembering them. It's practice. It's court practice if you're a basketball player. It's instrument practice if you're a musician, and it's writing practice if you're a writer. It's just doing it. Just do it.
Day after day after day. And that's where, that is what I bring for people, is showing that it is possible to move forward even after you've fallen flat on your face. Mm-hmm. It is okay. It's when you stay on your face that you've then failed.
I want to close up with a quick story. Mm-hmm. I live in a rural area here in New England, and there are a lot of farms around. And for a long time, I know that I was trying to get my footing after I was laid off from teaching. I thought it would be a great thing to start a business, even though I didn't really know too much about it. This was about 6, 7 years ago now. And I spent a long doing books and reading reports on positive thinking and really focusing on the motivation stuff. And until it finally hit me, and it wasn't getting me anywhere, until it finally hit me as I was driving through farmland that farmers in January are not dreaming about harvest. They're not dreaming about harvest in the spring, and they're not dreaming about harvest in the summer. They don't dream about harvest. They just trust that harvest time is going to come. So in February, they're picking up their seeds and they're planting their crops. In the spring, they're working the ground, or they're planting their crops, and they're watering their crops, and they're tilling the land. In the summertime, they're doing everything to nurture that stuff. And it's the same thing with nurturing our projects. You know, people, I often hear this with a lot of motivational material, that, well, keep your eye on the prize and keep your eye on the goal. Well, I say keep an eye on your baby steps right in front of you. Look in front of you and where you're going, because if you're constantly looking off in the distance, you're never going to see what's right in front of you that you need to work and nurture to get to that point where harvest is, where you complete your goals.
Yes. Yeah, and they work together. You know, you need to know where you're going so that you know that your baby steps are heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it's the taking the baby steps that is, yeah, absolutely critical. It's the taking action and moving it from, you know, from here down into the actual practical everyday get it done. Yes. Yep. And it's funny.
I want to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say the similarities between knowing that you've got these tools, knowing that they will help, and actually using them. And it's again the simple act of moving it out of head knowledge into practical experience knowledge. Yes.
Yeah, so when you watch us take notes, so all these things, it sounds like casual talk, but we have some powerful things to talk about. And sometimes, you know, it's the little tasks that we do that become collective that create a big movement.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was a really good tip that I think may have just gotten glossed over. Write it down. People write things down.
I have little cards that I carry. I put them in my back pocket, and I carry them around.
Yep. Not only will it keep you from forgetting it and losing it forever into the mental abyss, but it gives you a starting point to start asking bigger questions. So,
and if you're working off, if you prefer electronics or technology, open up a Word file, or open up a text file that you can just jot. I have a bunch of different of notepad. I think or text edit for Mac users. If you just open it up, and it gives you can write quick notes in there and have them for later, instead of trying to keep everything up in your head.
Yep. Yep. So I think we are wrapping up our hour.
And what are we? We're meeting every Thursday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and
noon over here on the West Coast.
Yes. And we are tackling limiting beliefs. And we will continue to tackle more. Believe it or not, there are more.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So we welcome your questions and your comments. We do monitor all of the comments and questions afterwards, or reach out to us privately. Connect with us on Facebook or on Google Plus or Twitter, wherever you're comfortable finding us, if you want to ask a private question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks again, Michaela. I appreciate your time. Thank you for everybody who's been watching. And this is Jennifer with the Academy of Holistic Healing.com. Send us messages and we will definitely get back with you. Let us know what you're working on that you'd like some help with, and we will do what we can. We're here to serve.
Thank you.
All
Bless.
right.